Hi, who do you think is your biggest enemy in the market? Higher rates? High frequency traders who front run you? Chinese fake accounting? Not that any of this is benign, but in my experience, your biggest market enemy is your own brain, or rather a part of it. Which part? No, not any of those parts with fancy Latin names. Rather, it has a very American name. During my days at Stanford Business School, I spent a whole year in what was then called the Human Emotions Lab to learn how my own brain can sabotage me by blocking facts. Some of us called it Pogo's brain block. Pogo is a famous cartoon character from the Okefenokee swamp who said famously, "We have just met the enemy and it is us." That's why we named the brain block after Pogo. Later, it was more prosaically named the protective brain block. Every human brain has one. Yes, yours too, and also mine. What does it do? The protective brain block makes your brain unable, not unwilling, but physically unable to absorb facts that prove that the brain's owner is or has been stupid. Even if your brain is educated, or rather especially then, because the more educated and intelligent you are, the higher your brain's ability to invent far-out explanations to prove why you haven't been stupid, even if the facts are plain that you were, especially then. Or did you really think your brain does only what you tell it to do? For example, invest according to facts? Really? No, your brain has a higher priority, and that's to defend its owner against feeling really bad. And that one is you. Therefore, any fact that makes you feel really bad, your PBB blocks any way it can. But aren't facts indisputable? Not to your protective brain block, they aren't. Let's take an example. Say you've told all your friends that you love Bitcoin, that it's the next best thing. You've studied the math and can quote it, which makes you feel smart. So as Bitcoin goes up, you keep telling yourself it's wonderful. And any guru tweet saying it's good, your brain latches on and transforms into a fact, which it isn't. But when Bitcoin cracks and falls some more, what does your brain do? It blocks out a fact. It will come back, it tells you, because the alternative is that you have been foolish. And admitting this is unacceptable because then you will feel awful. So your brain forces you to forget what you just read and go on to see some more cat videos. Another week goes by. Then you see the story of tulip bulbs on the Sleuth Investor channel from yours truly, and learn how all of Europe went mad 300 years ago, bidding up the price of tulip bulbs to millions of guilders. When that madness broke, all went bankrupt. Bitcoin, said the Sleuth Investor clip, is the new tulip bulb. As you hear it, something bubbles up inside you and you realize that Bitcoin may indeed be the modern version of tulip bulbs. But does the idea penetrate? It probably doesn't, because your brain's protective brain block jumps up and says it cannot be true, because if it were, then you've been stupid, and you can't be by definition. Therefore, whoever tells you that Bitcoin is tulip bulbs must be stupid, him, not you. And so you keep losing money. The question is, does your protective brain block care nothing about losing money? That's the great secret I was forced to learn in school. Your PBB is myopic. It only cares about now, not the future. In a way, it's like a happy California hippie. It cares only about feelings right now, not about money in the future. Besides, let's admit it, in this day and age, it is often dangerous to stand up to your PBB if you think that it and everyone else is stupid, not you. And if you dare say it, it is dangerous. Why? Because in this day and age, it occasionally is true, and then you may be shunned, maybe even cancelled. But I'm not saying you should shout from the rooftop that everyone else is wrong. Just keep quiet and take their money. Because let's face it, if you think just like anyone else, whose money are you going to take? Again, I'm not talking politics. Who cares? I'm just talking about the market, where many can be wrong altogether, which for you can be an opportunity. The question is how to find out what these wrong things are. The secret is look inside yourself first and ask yourself these two dangerous questions. The first is, what do I know in my heart of heart to be true, yet I feel compelled to deny? And the second, what do I know in my deepest heart to be false, yet I feel compelled to affirm? Start there. These days, both questions are dangerous to say out loud because they may label you as a fake news provider or worse, a fuddy-duddy who doesn't understand modernity. But if you want to take other people's money in the market, you simply have to teach yourself how to stand up to your own protective brain block, which forces you to think like everyone else. How can you do that? When I was taking my MBA in Stanford in the prehistory, I learned to recognize the feeling inside when my protective brain block springs to my defense and screams inside me when I squash the feeling that I am being a sucker. But I also found that the ability to stand up to my protective brain block can be very profitable, because unless you can act with conviction based on facts only, when all others are acting out of fantasy or mass hypnosis, as in the case of Bitcoin, and your own brain block tells you not to be different, then you cannot make much money. Yes, like Bitcoin, or like the internet craze in 2000 to 2003, or like today, and the idea that oil is going soon to 300, even though Europe is going bankrupt, its rivers are drying up, and everyone there is chopping up firewood for the winter. That's the environment where oil will go up to 300? Really? When people say stay home wrapped in cardigans, like Jimmy Carter in the 70s? Either the economy will zoom soon or oil will crack. But won't oil reach 300? Well, maybe one day, if you wait long enough, maybe by the end of the decade. But if Europe is going bankrupt and its rivers are drying up, and China's banks go bankrupt too, and China's rivers are drying also, who will drive cars? And which cars? Who can afford to make them when workers stay home? If you follow facts, it's a little bit more likely that next year, when the economy cracks, oil will be at 50 or 40. Did anyone say lower? Before it reaches 300. So why is oil so high now? For at least 4 reasons, factual reasons. First, because the US stupidly stopped drilling for oil. That's a fact. 2, because woke bankers stopped lending to oil companies. That's a fact too. The head of Exxon spoke before Congress complaining about it. 3, because MBS, Saudi Arabia's dictator, hates President Biden, who will call him nasty names. So MBS wants to make it hard for Biden to get a Democratic Congress, and so he cuts down oil production to jack up oil prices to weaken the economy. And even if Biden gets more oil from Iran, Venezuela, which he likely won't, MBS will just cut down production more to keep oil prices up, just to poke Biden in the eye. This last I have from some old school friends whose mother used to sing them to sleep with lullabies by Machiavelli when they were young. Oh yes, oil may stay up for now, but come October, November, after the US midterms, Saudi Arabia will no longer support high oil prices. They'll probably sell as much as they can before the recession hits. And if and when the recession does hit, what do you think will happen to oil demand? With Europe freezing in the dark, wrapped in cardigans? No, the last is not a fact, just a conjecture. So here's another fact, number 4. China has begun already to sell Russian oil, resell it rather, repackaged, to which the US administration closes its eyes because of the midterms. As an aside, this channel also pointed oil as foolishly cheap when it was panic sold to minus $40 a barrel 2 years ago. Remember? Bottom line, if you are long oil here, your brain's protective brain block is surely screaming now that all the above is not relevant, because if it were, that you must have been foolish not to pay attention. Therefore, it can't be true, because by definition, you are smart. You think I'm wrong? Ask yourself then, would you rather be right or rich? Think about it as you go to sleep tonight, then see what your unprotected brain block tells you in the morning, just as you wake up. That's all for now. If you like the clip, subscribe to the channel, retweet to your friends, then go buy my book, The Sleuth Investor. Its follow-up book, The Advanced Sleuth Investor, will be out hopefully before year-end. Thank you for watching and see you next time.